Hello, everybody. You are very welcome to Successful Perspectives. Successful Perspectives, of course, is when we deep dive into the topic of leadership with one of our members from our very selective and influential network, Boardroom by EMIR. And for this chat, I am very happy to be joined by Terry Kane, the Managing Director for the Middle East and Africa for the Trade Desk. Terry, it's great to have you on Successful Perspectives, and thank you for joining me.
Frank, it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you.
Terry, look, the Trade Desk, okay, the world's largest independent ad tech, a NASDAQ 100 company, a 50 billion market cap, and in essence, from my understanding, the Trade Desk makes advertising throughout the world on every channel very simple. And as I've gotten to know you over the years and your genuinely impressive journey, I've been looking forward to our conversation to learn more about your leadership style and your principles. So let's start by, if it's okay with you, going back a little bit in time and thinking about your leadership when you were younger, say when you were starting out in your career. Was there someone you looked up to when you were younger that represented the kind of leader you wanted to be?
Cheers, Frank. I'm a great believer in the saying that know where you're going, but never forget where you come from. I grew up in Belfast in the 1980s and the 1990s, and it was very much a conflict zone. And you're always surrounded by the sense of foreboding, sort of always the injustice. You knew firsthand what hate and fear looked like. And there was always a sense of something was about to happen, or if it did happen, that there was a constant recycling of it. So, I remember I was 14 years old, and the very first proper book that I read was A Long Walk to Freedom by Mandela. And I said, ever since that moment, I have to say, it was like my ethics were set, the cornerstone of my values were set. And then from then on forward, it's what I aspired to be like as much as you can be within your own remit. And then in 2019, I got to take my daughter to Robben Island, and I have to say I was exceptionally emotional. It was just so personal.
Right? Yeah. It's away from the mainland. It's the feeling of, if you go back in time and how it would have been like back then, even being in Mandela's actual cell as well. You get to feel all that emotional journey he would have been on, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, and then you reflect back into the life that the man led, and the injustices that he went through, and how he came out the other side, and how he positioned himself as a leader for the future, for the good of others, and for me personally, that kind of that definitely triggered the belief in being there, support for others, inspiring others, being empathetic towards others, making life better for others. So civil rights and all the leadership around civil rights, etc., was definitely aspirational, inspirational for me in my younger days, and hopefully I've taken some of that into my older years as well.
Oh, you're still young, Terry, but you're right. I was going to ask you the question, like, why did it resonate with you? And I think you hit the nail on the head there in terms of the aspirational element of it and what you would have learned and how you apply it on your daily leadership as well. But that kind of leads me to my next question is, when we talk about leadership, people kind of assume that it's an all-encompassing role where you know everything. So what is one popular belief about being a leader that is actually total nonsense?
Frank, there's just so many of them that are total nonsense. But I think the one that the one that kind of resonates with me well, and tied to the Mandela story and what true leadership looks like, is the one that's nonsense for me is that it's cometh the title, cometh the leader. I think history has taught us just so many times that you're not born into leadership. Real good leadership means that you have to learn. You have to adapt, you have to pivot, you have to learn again. And I don't think that can be done unless you've led and gone through challenges, come out stronger the other side. And I think I see this in everyday life. And some of the best leaders that I've seen have been the people who are below me structurally in the organization. But they're jumping forward, steering projects, they're guiding in meetings, they're every day there's something new, and they're iterating and developing the way they handle a conversation or resolving conflict, dipping into the organization to pull the best potential out of the organization to develop. So I really do think it's a mindset and a way of behaving versus something which is born into, or even the title is a reflection of what a good leader is. And you know, I think my own history as well and my own career is I've worked with those that have been gifted positions and those that have not earned positions but are still the leaders. And I have to say it's you know, it's part of my own journey that I've learned from both of them, the good and the bad. And in fact, if anything, the bad ones even more so, because you learn to realize what you don't want to be, and you learn to you know, identify and recognize them.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I often I'm lucky enough to be in a position where I get to meet leaders like you on these type of on successful perspectives. And a lot that comes up is the notion that leaders must always have answers, that they
Yeah.
know everything. But knowing everything is nonsense. And for me, in reality, effective leadership is not about having all the answers, but being able to your language, facilitate that collaboration and empower the team and
Yeah.
help everyone make more informed decisions. And that way don't create unrealistic expectations and pressures amongst the team, especially in the way the world is right now in today's complex business environment as well.
But
But
I don't think it's necessarily having all the answers, Frank, but I think what is critical is knowing who to find the answer, and knowing how to buy time, if I'm honest with you, in order to give yourself time to go and find an answer. But you know, not having an answer is maybe not acceptable. Finding the answer is the right answer.
oh, yeah, stakeholder management, right? It's perfect. But do you feel like in your position and on your journey, do you feel it can be lonely at the top of or in top of an organization? And is there anyone you go to for advice right now?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think I think it comes in waves. You know, I think the loneliness comes in waves. So I don't disagree with that at all. And I think anyone that says, you know, that it's never lonely at the top is not being fully honest with themselves. But I definitely do think it comes in waves. It's not a consistent feeling. And you know, well, one of the important leadership traits is to identify those waves of loneliness or anxiety.
Yeah.
And some of those things can be caused and triggered by personal, or by those above you or those below you. And I think that loneliness is certainly something which the way I deal with it, and I always revert to sayings and analogies. This too shall pass is maybe one of the sayings that I always revert to. It's, you know, if I'm deep into it at that moment in time and I just can't see the surface, then this too shall pass, and it's something which I always revert to. But you know, also as well, I think some of that loneliness feeling for those that are particularly representative of a bigger organization in the region. For example, I look after the Middle East Africa region. We are relatively a small team with a huge army sitting in various different other parts of the world. And that can be lonely as well, because you are the sole, you know, team in the market, and you got to help your team and your colleagues manage various different situations, which others just simply don't have that kind of pressure sitting on them. And I think that, you know, helping educate and develop teams to, you know, be masters of that understanding and start to master that understanding and be confident in that is really important. And then for, you know, you asked about people that I turn to. So I really do have a thoroughly trusted circle, very small circle of confidants. And those are people who have been here before, people that have, you know, serviced in the industry, who understand the context of things, who I can turn to for anything ranging from you know, a personal issue through to a business issue, and they can give me context. And what's really important about that is if they're proper, trusted confidants, is that they'll give you the good and the bad and the stuff that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear. And that's really beneficial. And to find that circle and to keep that circle, it's invaluable.
That's excellent. That's great advice. It's something I've been working on myself. It's important to build that strong support network outside of your day-to-day life, kind of within and outside the organization, mentors, colleagues, advisors, and as you said, people that have been there before that can give you that sounding board that, as you said, and I love that, is what you like to hear and what you don't want to hear. What you don't want to hear are the people you want beside you, because they're the ones that are going to put you on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
and give you that perspective that you really need to hear, right? But you touch upon a few things about your team, and even earlier when we talked about identifying like leadership, being lonely at the top, etc. When you're looking within the organization, how do you identify potential leaders within an organization? Like what behaviors do they exhibit? And I know you touched upon some of these earlier, but for
Yeah.
you, identifying potential leaders within an organization, what behaviors do they exhibit?
Yeah. Do you know what for me, I mean, one of the greatest pleasures in any type of leadership role is to see those that thrive in the organization because you've given them the space and the accountability and the opportunity to to spread their wings. And um, there's a saying, I can't remember the exact saying, but it's along the lines of, a great leader will enable somebody to do what they themselves never thought possible. And to see those opportunities and people grab those opportunities and come to life is just, for me, it's one of the most fulfilling things of all. You're creating the next generation of leaders, and there's inklings of this, and you'll see, in the business world and business school world, they might call it, accountability or proactivity or collaboration, and all of those things are very, very true. And I do believe in them. And there's behavioral traits around individuals who will go into it. Like I mentioned earlier, they'll dip into the company, and a leader will dip into the company and find two or three people that can make something happen without needing to go out and do it themselves. So they're really leveraging the resources within the company, but they're taking that accountability on board themselves to go out and find it. And that's proactivity, so it's accountability, proactivity, collaborative approach. But I think one of the things that's really going to that's always has been important, is important today, and will be very important into the future, is around emotional intelligence and EQ. And I think with AI and how AI is certainly helping us to move faster. It's helping us to break down particularly quantitative and data-driven barriers into making decisions. I think EQ is going to be a much more important part of a leadership's role into the future, and how you balance between, self-reflection around understanding people's potential, around translating business into humanity, around being self-aware, and around how do you then bring to life the best of what technology has to offer in a business in order to deliver to a customer. And at the end of the day, it's the customer's impact which which will drive obviously drive results. So leadership and creating that leaders of the future around various different elements, but certainly EQ, I think, is going to be one strongly into the future.
That's an excellent answer. So Terry, one more question before we shift into our rapid fire round. And I was looking forward to asking you this question. How do you find your purpose?
I read the question, and it's the one I was at least looking forward to answering, because I think if I'm brutally honest, first of all, it's a very deep question, and if I'm brutally honest, I haven't found my purpose yet, and I think that's
I love the honesty. I think everyone's on that journey. I think it's great to hear the honesty. I appreciate
yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. Look, I mean, don't get me wrong. My family are number one, the most important thing in my life, and everything I do for my family, 100%. But I believe that purpose goes deeper than that, and I believe that purpose goes deeper than probably most of us are giving ourselves honesty around. And as I get older, I'm 45 now, and maybe if you asked a 25-year-old person, Terry, this, my purpose would have been very clear and immediate. Make money, or be successful, or be the boss. But purpose, as you get older, becomes different because, more than anything, time is the most valuable commodity that we all have, and maybe legacy is within that as well. And there's so many different things that you start to question your own subconscious of, the what and the why. And there was a tool that I seen recently that helped probe this. It's the what and the why. So why am I here speaking to Frank McCarthy today?
Yeah.
Well, that's going to help me with, hopefully, my personal brand proposition in the market. So why is that important? Well, that's going to help me with my career. Well, why is that important? Well, that's going to help me with my family. Well, why is that important? And et cetera, et cetera. So you go deeper and deeper and deeper into this. And I've got down to maybe 20 layers, and I've nowhere near finished in this, but it's deep, and you will come to that point, and I believe that you will find the question around purpose. And from that moment, then the truth prevails, I believe. But I've yet to get there. So if I'm honest with you, the older I get, the more important this question becomes. And look, again, from my other side, Frank, as you know me, fitness and health is really important to me. And one of the tools that I have to go out and try and find purpose is my health and fitness routine. So, I challenge myself for the most sort of gregarious sports activities that there is out there, because I like to push myself physically and mentally in a space where I can question and come up with answers,
That's literally it. As in, I know recently Marathon des Sables back in, was it earlier this year, April-ish time?
Yeah. My third time doing it, still haven't found the answer.
But they're the types of engagements, even for me alone, where you strip away all aspects of life that you have to focus on one thing, and that is yourself in that moment.
Yeah.
And it strips you back to understanding why you're here and why you're doing certain things, and even your self beliefs and where you are and what you can achieve. So it's a great answer, Terry. Genuinely is, and it's probably one of my favorite answers on that question. There's a lot of different perspectives and reflected on what you love. Focus on your strengths. What are your values? What impact do you want to make? What are your patterns in life? And be open to evolving. And all these things are great. But I really, really love your answer. So thank you for sharing. Terry, look, thank you for your time. And genuinely, thank you for being on Successful Perspective. It's been a pleasure having you. And genuinely, that was excellent, very interesting insight. So I'm looking forward to catching up soon. Everybody, thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again in the near future.
Thanks a million, Frank. Appreciate it.